Hello everyone. Last night I got to see the new Ron Howard movie, In the Heart of the Sea, and I'm here to essentially today to give you my thoughts on the movie and what I thought about it as a whole. And I remember seeing this trailer probably back in, I'd say probably September, and I saw a trailer and I'm like, holy shit, this looks amazing. This could be like the 2000 Leagues Under the Sea of 2015. It could be really interesting. So, personally, I got really excited to see this movie, and I was a bit disappointed, really. I really wish this could have been so much better, in my opinion. This could have been so much better. It's essentially a classic Moby Dick story, essentially. It's like, who doesn't know that? I'll just say what I like about this movie. Number one, the acting. Acting from everyone in this movie is great. Chris Hemsworth is great. Tom Holland is great. Brendan Gleeson, Ben Wenshaw. So many great actors in this movie, and they all give great performances. The tension and the suspense in the film is great as always. You believe that they were out at sea. There's a lot of tension with the scenes with the whale, which was really great. And the effects with the whale were astounding. They were literally, in my opinion, they were some of the highlights of CG this year. There's some moments in this film where I'm like, this is on par with like Mad Max Fury Road when it comes to effects itself. It is seamless at times. It's absolutely amazing. And the story, I'm a fan. I'm literally a big fan of the classic story of Moby Dick. So I was very excited, and throughout the film I was engaged, and I wanted to know where it was going. However, that leads into a lot of problems with the film. Is number one is the pacing. It feels really off. Like the first 40-something minutes are really a drag. And I would understand that if they were reaching into the characters or something like that, or developing the world and let it breathe. But I understand if it's slow. If a film needs to be slow, I understand that. But this one is painfully slow. It's painful at times of how slow and how much the film drags at times, and you feel that length. And this film is like 2 hours 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and it feels like 2.5 or almost 3, and it drags so much because of that. And the story, while I am a fan of it and I was legitimately interested, and there's a lot more where it just lost me, and it wasn't engaging. It was just boring at times. And I was really excited for the whole man versus nature thing of how they survive out in the ocean, and seeing how Moby Dick, the whale, will come to play in this. But the whale feels like third or fourth wheel. It's not one of the main focuses. The main focus is much more of the performances and the survival. And I'm like, come on, no. I really wanted to see this because I know Ron Howard is a great director. His last film, Rush, I'm a huge fan of that film. I really loved Rush, and he could have had a great rivalry between these men surviving the ocean and the whale fighting for territory and to kill these people. And it's like they could have some great tension. Well, they did have great tension, but I just wanted more of the rivalry in between that. But it just seemed like the whale was like the third or fourth intent with the movie. It should have been the main focus between the people who are willing to survive the ocean to kill these whales, and the whale fights back. That should have been the main focus, but it wasn't. And I'm like, oh, come on. And the film, and other times, like I said before, so many effects were astounding. But there's some moments where the effects are really noticeable. They're really noticeable, and I'm just kind of shocked of how great at times that they could be. I'm like, holy shit, that is so good. I'm like, how could it be so good at one point, the effects? How could it be so good at one point? And then the other, they look completely cartoonish. Well, I wouldn't say cartoonish, but it looks very obvious, like 300 Rise of an Empire standards. It's like, oh my god, it is staggering of how, like that, the effects could be, at some point they could be excellent, and at that point it could be bad. And I'm like, how could they screw that up? How? The effects should be consistent. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Interstellar, those effects were consistent. They kept it the same all the way through, even though it was gradual. This film, it was very much mixed, and it felt very, very off, and it threw me completely off guard within the movie as a whole. And I love the source material, I love the story, I love the book of Moby Dick. But this feels like more of a retelling of the journey out to sea of it, and it feels like it shouldn't be like that. I wish it was more of a survival movie, and it was paying more towards of the old telling of the survival, kind of same thing with Titanic. It's a flashback survival story, but I just wish it was more of a man versus nature and the whale story. The focus was completely off, and it really just staggered to me. And this movie has a potential, in my opinion. It has a potential of being great. It has great acting. It has great effects. It has an interesting plot. As a whole, essentially, it has an interesting plot at times. It's like it has a recipe for becoming a great movie, but it didn't. The pacing was off. The focus was really weird, and the way it was progressing, it's like, this is just a movie, in my opinion, that I wish it could have been great. I wish it could have been like the top 5 favorites of this year, but it really, in my opinion, it really fell flat. Although it's not the most disappointing, I will say it had the most potential. And from this may be one of the most disappointing, but it's not one of the worst films of the year. It's just rather one of the most disappointing. Where I thought something like, what the hell was it? Tomorrowland had a great, well, I won't say it was great, but I had a feeling of it could be something good, but it just didn't look that interesting to me. Where this, I actually had some real anticipation for this, but it kind of let me down. It's like, it's not the worst thing, but it's not good, and that to me is really unacceptable, especially from such a talented director. I love Ron Howard. Like I said before, Rush. I love Rush. Apollo 13 is excellent. Apollo 13 is great. I'm just looking at his resume here online. And again, not many great films, but there's only 2 that come to my mind. And which is weird because it's like, to me, Ron Howard is very much like Ridley Scott. It's like he's directed some great films, but he's directed a lot of stinkers as well. It's not like Spielberg where he would have like a great amount of great films and very few bad ones. It's like for every good movie Ron Howard makes, there's a bad one. And for me, this is kind of like, with Rush, it came out a few years ago. I loved that one. Going to this film, I was just disappointed on what the fuck it should have been on. However, I don't think I am going to give this a not good review as a whole, but this movie is something that I do not regret seeing in theaters, because the theater experience of the movie as a whole was very immersing. However, it's just an unbalanced, unfocused movie I felt severely disappointed with. And I wish this could have been an excellent film. I believe this film could have been great. It has good components of it, but as a whole, it just fell flat. And I'm going to give In the Heart of the Sea a 45%. That's my review for In the Heart of the Sea, everyone. I really do hope you enjoy it. In the end, I would not recommend it. And it hurts to admit it. It's not one of the worst of the year, but it's one of the more disappointing ones of the year. Until then, everyone, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon for this weekend coming up, when hopefully like during this week or next week, when I will review Until then, everyone, see you till then, bye. In the end, I will be giving it a 45%. That's my final rating for this movie. Yes, the components of a good movie, but it fell flat. This fell flat. It's just dull.